So are we just gonna have to get everybody expelled from the school? Hey everyone, welcome to Prince of the Gate. I'm your host Connie, and today we're here with episode 10 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. So, I have been told in the comments of the last reaction that apparently the comedy episodes, the more comedic, goofy stuff, it does have a point. Like there is a reason for it. It fits in with the grand scheme of things or whatever. Um, but even like the commenter said that it can be very distracting and create some dissonance and whatnot. When you're just watching it and all. The idea that it does have like serve some grand purpose, I'm not sure how that would even work because it's like why? What would that possibly serve, like for the plot or whatnot? And if you're just talking about like for the tone of the show in order to add some levity in amongst all the heavier stuff, it's like okay, I can kind of get that, but you can have levity and comedy in a show without it feeling distractingly off, without it feeling like it just doesn't fit. Because it's like you're going pretty much from one extreme to the next. You have the serious dramatic stuff which is like very serious and dramatic and gets even very intense at times, and then it just goes into the most wacky zany offbeat comedy possible. It's like you're going from one end of the spectrum to the other, and that's not how you do levity and comedy in a serious show. I think last episode I referenced Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood as an example of how to do it well, because you're not going from like one end of the spectrum to another. There's more of a balance to it, and it's more, the comedy isn't too wacky and zany to where it feels out of place with everything else. And the serious stuff is, while extremely serious, not like the very very far end of the spectrum most of the time, because it's very consistently balanced out. The the serious stuff and the comedic stuff blends together pretty much almost every episode. And there's 60 something episodes for Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Almost every single episode has a balance of things. There are some episodes that are entirely serious and dramatic. There are. But most of them have a balance, and that consistency helps. This series, it's like you get one or the other. You don't have a balance. Most of the episodes are very serious. And maybe not to the same degree, maybe not all of them are like excessive in their seriousness, but they're still very serious typically. And then occasionally you just get an episode, and I think there's only been two. Like we've seen 9 episodes so far by this point, and only two of them have had that kind of ridiculous goofiness. And it's very distracting because it's like the serious stuff can get really good, but the silly stuff is too silly for this series for me. Like if I were watching something like Nichijou, it would be fitting. It would make sense. It would match the show. But for a show like this, it feels like very out of place. I'm still going to give it, like I said when we started this back up after having after having dropped it before. I am going to give this a fair shot. It's 30 something episodes, and this is only episode 10 here. We're going to continue to give it a fair shot. Hopefully that kind of thing improves, at least in terms of balancing, or maybe the silly stuff isn't as silly moving forward. Um, I don't know. It's just I feel like that does break my immersion and break my interest in a lot of cases in the show. And so I really don't want that to overtake this series or to just generally cloud my enjoyment of it. Because there's so much good with this series. There's so much like great stuff and I want to enjoy that stuff without being completely taken out of it, you know? So, last time Sayanji got expelled because he's a fuckboy. And he, just kind of like basically said, fuck the rules, I'm doing what I want. Although, to be fair, he was led into that by the other guy, whose name I can never remember. Red haired guy. He led him into that, ironically. So he kind of just got Sayanji expelled, like, almost unfairly. But at the same time, it's like it's technically not unfair because Sayanji would have done something like that anyway because he's that kind of, disgusting, terrible person. And honestly, with kind of the stuff he has done already, like he should have at least gotten some kind of disciplinary action just for the way he treats Anthe. Like, Jesus fuck, my dude. But knowing this series, or knowing a lot of these kinds of series, I guess is more of what I want to say. Sayanji's probably not gone. It's like that'd be too good to be true. He's probably going to remain in the series. He's probably going to somehow get back into the school, get back into the running for like, marrying Anthe or whatever. It's probably not going to stick. I don't know how he's going to reverse that, but he probably is. And it fucking sucks, mind you, because, like, I want him gone. Of course, I kind of want everyone gone, hence my statement in the cold open. Like, the red haired guy is a piece of shit, too. He's a manipulative fuckboy just as much as Sayanji. In a different way, but still. It's like there's some other characters who are nicer, like the blue haired one in the council or whatever. Um, he's nice, at least nicer. Um, and it's just I feel like I feel like there's not been, at least lately, since we've come back, which mind you has only been a couple episodes, but still, there's not been enough like real focus on progression. And I talked about this last time. It's kind of a case of if this show got remade nowadays, I feel like there's a lot of filler content they could just cut out. There's a lot of content in here that just doesn't need to be covered because it's not relevant to the story in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know if it was in the original source material or not. I can't say on that, but it just feels pointless overall. And honestly, with like, if you just had this series focus entirely on the plot, I mean, I'm thinking at this point it could maybe be one or two cores, like 24 episodes max. You probably cut out quite a bit. Um, if you cut out the pointless stuff, and it's not even just the overly like goofy comedic stuff. Like there's some other stuff that's like kind of pointless seeming as well. And maybe that stuff will come back into play. Maybe it'll end up becoming important. But based on where it is at the moment, it's really not. So maybe I'll end up being proven wrong. Maybe things will definitely improve for me. But so far, it's just like, it's not quite hooking me in still. I don't know what episode we're going to end up giving it until. I don't know, like, exactly how long we're going to wait before I make a decision here. But like I said, I want to give it a fair shake. I want to make sure that especially after coming back from dropping it before, I want to make sure that I give it the chance it deserves. So we'll see. Let's just get into this episode. Hope for the best, and maybe I'll be impressed here. Maybe. Let's get this going. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget about all the gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. We have Baldur's Gate 3 every single day, Horizon Forbidden West on Mondays and Fridays, Tuesdays and Thursdays is Life is Strange, Wednesdays and Sundays is Red Dead Redemption 2, and on Saturdays we have Nier Automata. A lot of great gaming content every day. Don't forget to click the link in the description below to follow it to today's reaction. I redirect everything just due to copyright reasons. And please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more awesome content such as this. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at today's reaction. And we're back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I talked about before, like, the idea of having this series, like, remade and cutting out a bunch of stuff, and, you know, how it could, like, streamline it, make it more focused on the story and everything. But the thing is, it's like, there's also a side of me that wouldn't want this remade, because then it would have to go through, like, all this stuff with Nanami again, and, like, unless they completely change that and just cut out the creepy incestuous shit. But the problem is, there's a lot of things I don't think they could cut out, because I feel like Toga being excessively manipulative of her is very important to how, like, you know, fucked up and terrible his character is. And, like, it just feels like that's the intent, and you're obviously not supposed to like it or anything like that, but it's just that as I watch this, it's just so fucking irritating, because this kind of shit bothers me on a very deep level. It's actively, aggressively upsetting to me. I find it to be extremely uncomfortable. And I feel like it's just not gonna stop. And I'm just unsure at this point of, like, what I want to do. Because, like I said, I want to give this show a fair chance. I want to, after coming back to it, after having initially dropped it, I want to give it an entirely fair chance and give it the opportunity to possibly prove me wrong. But it's like, some of this shit is just so actively aggravating to me. And it's not even that it's, like, poorly written or anything like that. It's not that it's, like, bad. Outside of just, you know, the content itself, like, you know, being centering around bad things. It's just that the content itself, the bad stuff that's being, like, you know, showcased in this, is so aggravating to me. And it's just like, every time I watch these episodes, I feel like I'm going to have a breakdown. I feel like I'm going to, like, just go off at some point and lose my fucking mind. And it's like, the thing is, like I said in the reaction, this episode gave me more of what I wanted. Stuff more focused on the story, a duel and everything, even if the duel was interrupted stupidly. It's like, can't have anything nice, can't have Nanami get her shit rocked. That would have been too, satisfying. But we can have Anthe get slapped every other episode. That's fine. We can't have anything happen to poor Nanami, but Anthe, oh, she gets slapped and that's okay. Slapped so hard she falls to the fucking ground, but nothing wrong there. I'm salty as a bitch about that. I'm salty as a fucking bitch about that. It's like, you can show Anthe get slapped every other episode, being literally, like, tossed around like a tool by all these people, trying to win her like a prize rather than treat her like a fucking person. And we can't have anything happen to Nanami. We can't have her get defeated at all. The duel has to be stopped by the exact person who encouraged her to take on the duel. Like, the manipulative bullshit here is so aggravating. Like, I don't know, like, it may sound a little weird, it may sound maybe even a little fucked up to you, but I was rooting for her getting her shit kicked in. For Utena to, like, destroy her in this battle. For some reason, she knew how to sword fight too, even though she was never a duelist or anything. Don't know where that came from, but whatever. Um, Point is, like, she was still going to be defeated by Utena. It was very clear. And then he just steps in and stops it. It's like, I feel so blue-balled by this shit. I was so excited to see this. And like I said, it sounds bad, but I don't give a shit. Fuck her. Like, Nanami is probably one of my least favorite characters that I can think of in all of anime. I despise her. She's an absolute piece of shit, and she's horrifically creepy. I just fucking hate her. And I'm, like, not rooting for her death or anything. I'm just rooting for, her to get her shit kicked in. Because she deserves it. The only thing that happened to her here was her getting her hair cut. Ooh. That's... Jesus fuck. I'm getting, like, legitimately really heated about this. That's how much I can't stand her, how much I hate her. It's just... It's not even just in terms of wanting to see her get beaten by Utena here. It's also just in terms of, like, the story and everything. It's like, you're building her up this entire episode to be this, like, next duelist, this new duelist. You get her in the duel, you have a way to make her end up fighting Utena. And then you just fucking stop it partway through? Like, from a story and writing perspective, that's unsatisfying. Like, it feels like you just pulled the rug out from under us. And I'm sure that was intentional. I'm sure that was the plan. But it's like, oh my god. I'm just, like, so maybe like unreasonably upset at this. And again, it's not even like saying like, I'm not like angry at this episode because of bad writing or anything. I'm angry at this episode, even though that part there is not great. I'm angry because we didn't get to see Nanami get fucked up. It's like sometimes when you're watching an anime, a cartoon, etc., there are just characters who you want to see get fucked up. And it's animation. They're not real people. It makes it a lot more okay than if you're like rooting for like a real person to get fucked up. If you're rooting for a real person to get fucked up, unless they're like a Nazi or something, that in and of itself is kind of fucked up. Unless they're like a Nazi or something like that, then you shouldn't root for a real person to get like, the tar kicked out of them. But an animated character, it's like they're not real. Who gives a shit? And sometimes characters are written in a way to where they are detestable. And you're supposed to root for their downfall. That's the intent. And Nanami is very clearly one of those characters. There is like no redeeming qualities to her. And it's just. And Toga's not like better. Like Toga's just as detestable, just in different ways. Like I was like trying to say in the reaction, it's like as much as I hate Nanami, like that doesn't make Toga's extreme emotional manipulation of her any better. Because let's be fucking honest here. It's at least partially his fault that she's like this. He encourages it. He treats it as if it's a fun little game to play to get her to continue to stay on his side so he can manipulate her into doing his bidding. The entire thing, having her go into this fucking duel, he made it clear in the end with us hearing his thoughts that this was all just a game. He used her as a pawn to get information to help him like with his goal, and it's like, fuck you. And again, it doesn't stop her from being terrible, but it's like that he's also terrible. Oh my god, I'm like. Show's gonna give me a heart attack. I'm. Like I said, I don't know like when or like how much time or how many episodes I should give uh to this show to determine like if I'm gonna continue watching it or not at this point. Um, like I said, I want to give it a fair shot. I want to make sure that I give it the chance that it deserves and all. And again, there's a lot to love about this series and a lot of amazing, huge things that it does. It revolutionized, pun intended, the the ability to have queer representation in media. But one thing I feel like a lot of people never talk about in that kind of discussion is that it doesn't like automatically mean the show is good. And that goes for anime movies and stuff too. It goes for cartoons. It goes for anything like that. But like in terms of anime, let's talk in terms of anime. Just because something is influential, just because something changed the landscape um of anime like forever, it doesn't mean that series or movie or et cetera, holds up. It doesn't mean that it's still good or that it even ever was. Something being influential and something being good are two very different metrics. Because a movie or a series can be super influential because of the technology it uses, because of different techniques that it utilizes. That doesn't mean it's good. It just means that it changes things. It's revolutionary, but it's not necessarily quality. And I feel like a lot of people just get that confused. A lot of people just tend to like think that, oh, this show did so much for the world of anime, this movie did so much for the world of anime, that means it's good. It's like, no, it doesn't. That's not how any of this works. Like, an example I like to go to is Akira, the sci-fi movie that has been one of the biggest inspirations on anime ever. And I acknowledge that it's one of the biggest inspirations for anime ever. And that it's a very big deal. And I even understand why. For its time, it was revolutionary in what it did and how it did it. But in terms of plot, in terms of characters, it's really not that good. It's not like horrible. It's not like the worst thing ever, but it's not really that good. At least in my opinion, of course. It's it's a case where it's like people are conflating two different metrics, and I don't think that's fair. And mind you, like whether it's good or not is all subjective. I I will always like argue for that it's all subjective, it's all opinion, because if anyone can have a different opinion and genuinely mean it, you can't claim it's objectively good or bad. So when I share my thoughts on like this show or Akira or anything else, whether I'm saying it's good or bad is just my view on it. And this is definitely a series that's, although Akira's a movie, that's like Akira in terms of I can see why it's influential and I can see why it was such a big deal, but it has some issues that I'm having a hard time looking past. It has some issues that are just continuing to be an issue for me. And I wish that weren't the case. I wish that I could look past this stuff, and I'm trying to look past this stuff and just focus on the main story related things. But I'm not finding myself able to. And this is just a thing that happens. Some different people are affected by things differently, and for some people something might be a bigger problem than it might be for another person. Like I know, like for example, Dan. A lot of people were really upset by the first episode of Dan to a point where they could not continue watching, even with the promise that it would get better and, um, you know, expand past that kind of thing. And that's perfectly reasonable. That's perfectly understandable. I completely understand why someone would have that viewpoint. I'm a little more forgiving towards the first episode of Dan because I understand that it's portrayed entirely negatively, that you're supposed to hate it, and on top of that, most of the series isn't like that. It's like that and episode 9 are really the only episodes that get that bad. The rest of it is actually like really, really good. And handles it a little more respectfully than episodes 1 and 9 does sometimes. And even then, it's just like one scene in episode 1. Episode 9, it's almost the entire episode, but, that's why I said episode 9 was the weakest episode. But it's still, I feel like, worthy of continuing from all of the good. I think the good overweighs the bad most of the time with Dan Dan. With this, with Utena, it's a lot more unclear. There's points where the good does outweigh the bad, but there's also points where I honestly cannot look past the bad, and it bothers me too much to where it's like, no, I think the bad is outweighing the good here. And that's why I've been so unsure about it. That's why I dropped it in the first place. And why I've been questioning about how much I'm going to actually give this for a second chance. I was thinking at least giving the same amount of episodes as I did for the first, so that's what, 8 episodes? 7, 8 episodes? Something like that. So I'm thinking probably wait until around episode 15. But that was just a plan. I don't know if it's going to be exactly what I go with here. I really feel like it's going to end up being down to this. I'm going to keep giving it a chance. But if it does something if there's an episode that just really bothers me to an unheard of level, then it's that might break it for me. If it gets to a point that's worse, that's actively more bothering to me than anything we've had so far, very actively worse, then I might not be able to continue it at that point. It's just I just don't see how I would be able to. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. And as always, just kind of hope for the best. Because it's really genuinely irritating me at points. And I'm practically breaking down during these reactions. And it's not fun. It's not fun to do that. Breaking down like this, losing my mind pretty much, it is exhausting, if nothing else. It tires me out. It just leaves me so emotionally blank afterwards. I feel so just wrecked because of it. And I don't like feeling that way. I don't like negative feelings, and I would consider that a negative feeling. It bothers me when I feel that way. It kind of makes me feel even more negative. But it's it's a situation where I just really, really want to be sure this time before I drop it. Because here's the thing. If I drop it again, I'm not picking it back up. Nothing would make me pick it back up at that point. Especially not as a reaction, but probably not even give it another chance watching it even on my own time. Because if I drop it a second time, it's at that point, it's clearly not for me. And it's it's not it's the only queer anime out there, and I'm not talking about Yuri Bait or something like that. I'm talking about actual really respectful queer anime that really focus on it. Wandering Sun. Wandering Sun was fantastic. Hard to watch at times, but fantastic. And it didn't have to like throw in all of this really upsetting and cringy gag stuff. You didn't have to worry about like a character being like as bad as Nanami. And it's just it's really wild to me how that show has like flown so much under the radar that a lot of people don't even know about it. I would say probably the majority of anime fans don't, because it's like there's a lot of anime fans out there who are queer. Like a lot of queer people tend to like anime. um and you just see this, and it's like, why didn't this show ever get huge? It just feels like it would. And then sometimes you look back at some of the shows that are huge, and it's like, why is this well liked? And I'm not even saying that necessarily about this, because I can see why this is. And the thing is, a lot of these tropes and whatnot, like these were very big in a lot of 90s anime and all, so it's like it's not surprising that they would be in there. And even a lot of modern day anime have those too. Like the entire really fucking creepy, incestuous relationships and interests and stuff, those still exist in anime today. I really wish they didn't, but they do. It's not a trope that's gone away. And it sucks because it's really fucking gross. It's like honestly one of those things that really should stop being a thing. But yeah, I'm really mixed on this series. I feel like maybe like if it did get a remake, it should be like a full kind of almost from the ground up remake and change a lot of things, because you would want to make it something that's more like something that can be connected to better in the modern day, and that would mean there would have to be a lot of changes, and that's fine. The Digimon Adventure reboot changed quite a lot itself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I liked what I saw of the Digimon Adventure reboot. The only reason I dropped it, the only reason I stopped watching, really, was because it was it wasn't leading to some good reactions from me, and I was getting a little repetitive and all, but I just felt like it was, for the most part, still really good. It just sucks that they didn't have my Otismon. I miss my Otismon. But anyway, um, we're gonna, like I said, continue to give this a chance for now. Probably really come to a full decision by episode 15. But like I said, if it gets to a point where like something happens or an episode just like really irritates me in such an aggressive way, if it ever comes to that point, then I might drop it like at that point. But hopefully it never gets that bad. Hopefully, hopefully it never really goes that far. But also hopefully it improves and stops with as far as it's gone. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see. Um, at this point, it's like even with the tone changes and stuff, like, I can live with that. That's not even my biggest issue at the moment. But hopefully I'm proven wrong. Hopefully we end up loving this a lot more as it goes along. For the time being, though, tell me what you thought of this episode in the comments below. As always, no spoilers. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.